They say every marriage has a rhythm. Ours had a routine that looked good on paper and dead in real life. You know the type. We did our taxes early, sent Christmas cards to people we didn't like, and split Costco runs like wartime logistics. Cynthia and I had been married for 9 years. Not movie love, not disaster either. Just functional. Like a washing machine that's loud but gets the job done. She was smart. Too smart, maybe. HR manager at a biotech firm, always one step ahead in meetings, presentations, holiday gift exchanges. Cynthia was a queen at making people feel like they'd come up with her ideas. And me? I ran a small, honest remodeling business in the suburbs outside of St. Louis. Kitchens, bathrooms, sometimes decks. People liked me because I showed up on time and didn't talk like a contractor. We didn't have kids. That was a decision that started as a delay and calcified into a mutual shrug. We had 2 cars, his and hers. Separate accounts, except for the house. And a marriage therapist we never quite fired, just sort of ghosted. We had our version of normal. Saturday mornings were spent at Home Depot or estate sales. I did yard work while she sat inside with a glass of white and a podcast on emotional labor. If this sounds bleak, let me be clear, it wasn't. Not entirely. There were good years. Not perfect, but enough glue to keep it together. The trouble didn't arrive with a bang. It crept in like mildew behind the drywall. She started working late more often, and when she didn't, she'd disappear into her office under the guise of compliance emails. Her tone shifted too. Less warm, more clipped. Like everything I said was an inconvenience she had to process and file away. At first, I chalked it up to work stress. Then I caught her updating her calendar at midnight from a separate Google account she never mentioned. Still, nothing to point at and say, aha. Just a lot of static on the line. Then there was the therapist thing. After our 4th session, Cynthia claimed we'd graduated therapy, which was news to me. We had solved nothing. But she said she felt emotionally clarified, which is either HR speak for, I'm done, or some new age code for, I'm already halfway out the door. I asked questions. She smiled through them, always with that tired little head tilt that made me feel like the emotionally needy one. Eventually, I stopped asking. Now here's the kicker. I wasn't suspicious in the usual ways. No lipstick on collars, no strange charges, no new lingerie. And she didn't start running marathons or suddenly develop a taste for wine bars. It wasn't about what changed. It was about what vanished. The real Cynthia, the one who used to get into heated debates about ethics in The Bachelor or cry over old yearbooks, she just disappeared. In her place was a woman who scheduled intimacy like it was a conference call and found my jokes predictable. And yet, I stayed in it. Maybe because leaving would have meant admitting I missed the signs. Or because I still believed in the version of us that made homemade lasagna and slow danced in the kitchen in our socks. Then came the neighbor, Lyle Hammond. Freshly divorced, prematurely tan, and always talking too close. He moved in across the street last fall with his obnoxious lifted Ram truck and a loud Bluetooth speaker he took on walks. Cynthia never liked Lyle. Or so I thought. Until she started inviting him to our backyard BBQs. Said it was neighborly. She made that word sound like a dare. I remember the moment it hit me that I might be the last one in on some kind of private joke. It was a Sunday. We were cleaning out the garage, and I found this box labeled Ski Trip, Aspen. Thing is, we've never been to Aspen. Ever. When I opened it, it was filled with an odd mix, maps, trail guides, and 2 monogrammed gloves. Not hers. Not mine. Not even close. Inside the lid, there was a receipt taped down from a boutique lodge in Colorado, dated during a weekend she claimed to be at a compliance summit in Phoenix. I didn't say a word. Just quietly slid it back onto the shelf like it might explode. I could have snooped then. Checked her emails, gone through her drawers, done the whole paranoia routine. But I didn't want to dig yet. Not because I was afraid of what I'd find, but because I was afraid I already knew. Instead, I waited. Not passively, purposefully. I started watching, not reacting. Took notes, literally. Times, names, places. She noticed I'd become quieter. Thought it meant I was disengaging. Maybe she liked that. Give her more runway. But I had a plan. I just needed one solid piece that couldn't be explained away. No confrontations, no messy drama. Just quiet confirmation. And eventually, I found it. But not the way you'd expect. Because when I finally discovered what she was really up to, who she was with, and how deep it went, it didn't come from a text or an earring under the couch. It came from something a lot more embarrassing. And that's where the real story begins. Let me tell you something up front. When your wife is cheating, everybody thinks it'll be the big, dramatic moment that clues you in. A stray text, a hotel keycard, lipstick on the collar. Please. Real betrayal is way less cinematic and a hell of a lot more insulting. It hides in plain sight. It's efficient. It's quiet. And in my case, it came with a not-so-helpful punchline attached. Microsoft Excel. No, seriously. Excel. Here's how it went down. I hadn't opened her laptop in years. We had a kind of unspoken digital date on it. You do your thing, I do mine. We had separate computers, separate email logins, even separate Netflix profiles. That was just how we rolled. Or maybe how she wanted to roll, and I went along with it because it was easier than asking why she got edgy every time I reached for her iPad. Anyway, it all started with the printer. Our home printer, the same one I'd threatened to throw in the trash a dozen times, decided to stage its final protest right when I needed to print invoices for a kitchen remodel I'd just finished in O'Fallon. I was on deadline, the clients were waiting, and my laptop couldn't detect the printer for reasons known only to Satan and Canon tech support. So I tried hers. Cynthia had left her laptop on the dining room table, lid closed but charger still plugged in. I opened it out of desperation, figuring I'd just email the PDF from my Gmail and hit print. Except her email was already open. That was the first weird thing. Cynthia never left her work email open, especially not on her home computer. She was paranoid about data security, used to lecture me about compliance protocols, while I was just trying to microwave leftovers. And yet, there it was, right in front of me. Open, like a loaded gun left on the kitchen counter. So, naturally, I looked. And no, there weren't any love letters or steamy exchanges. Just boring HR stuff. Scheduling, compliance audits, performance reviews. That is, until I noticed a calendar invite from someone named T. Garrison. Not work email. Gmail. The subject line? Quarterly Goals Review Offsite. Now, I don't know what kind of quarterly goals get reviewed at 7:30 p.m. on a Wednesday at a boutique co-working space downtown, but I was pretty sure Cynthia wasn't mentoring interns over cheese plates. Still, I didn't jump to conclusions. Not yet. I clicked around, expecting maybe to find another email trail, some evidence. But her inbox was wiped clean. I mean surgically clean. No personal messages, no drafts, no trash. Who clears their trash folder? Then I saw it, a file on her desktop titled simply, budget_Q2_CG. CG. Her maiden initials. I opened it, and there it was, a spreadsheet, color-coded like a war map. Red, green, and pale yellow rows, meticulously organized. Each tab labeled by month. Every line item with descriptions. Hotel stays, Uber rides, Venmo payments labeled contribution, tickets to concerts I'd never heard about. All under a heading that simply read, Split Expenses FI 2024. I scrolled to the right, and that's when my stomach dropped. There were two names at the top of the columns, CG and TH. TH. I sat there, rereading those initials like they were a riddle. Then it clicked. Travis Hines. That's when the puzzle started to solve itself. Travis was a guy from Cynthia's gym. We'd met once. Tall, CrossFit type. Beard that probably took more maintenance than a luxury lawn. She had mentioned him in passing, said he worked in finance or consulting or something equally vague. Apparently, they'd partnered on some wellness fundraiser at work 6 months ago. I'd nodded and gone back to sanding drywall. Turns out, they'd also been sharing Lyft rides, dinner tabs, and hotel rooms. She tracked everything. Color-coded tabs for his share and my share. Even mileage reimbursements. Who cheats and also keeps a spreadsheet? I stared at the screen for what felt like an hour. I was numb, sure, but more than that, I was insulted. Not just by the cheating, but by the banality of it. The admin work behind it. This wasn't some messy, passionate affair. This was logistics. Like she was building an HR policy for her infidelity. And she thought I'd never see it. Probably assumed I'd never even look at her laptop. That night, I played dumb. Said the printer issue resolved itself. She came home late, blamed traffic, made a joke about how St. Louis drivers get aggressive when the temperature drops below 40. Then she opened a bottle of wine and scrolled her phone while sitting next to me on the couch. I wanted to ask her, what's the reimbursement rate for betrayal, Cynthia? But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I waited. I copied the spreadsheet to a flash drive and named it GarageParts_2024. Then I started digging. Quietly. Methodically. The same way she had built her spreadsheet. Over the next week, I followed the pattern. She was seeing him every Wednesday and most Thursdays. She'd pick fights on Monday nights to create space, then offer to sleep in the guest room Tuesday for clarity. By Friday, she was cheerful again, like someone returning from a spa weekend. She even scheduled fake work events on our shared calendar. Always just vague enough. Wellness board dinner, strategic offsite, STL co-working. She made up people I'd never met. Bethany, Raj, Hal from procurement. I don't think any of them exist. Hal might be her cheating alias for all I know. One Thursday afternoon, I forgot my truck keys and doubled back home. Her car was gone. I waited, parked down the street. Sure enough, she pulled up around 4:45 p.m., dressed in yoga gear and full makeup. The kind of outfit you wear when you're trying to look like you're not trying too hard. She waved at a neighbor and walked inside like she hadn't just returned from her second life. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because here's the thing. If you've ever been cheated on, you know that the moment you confront them is the moment you give them power. Suddenly they're defensive. Suddenly they're the one offended. You get half-baked apologies, tears that come too fast, and some self-help jargon about meeting unmet needs. I didn't want that. I wanted truth. Raw, unfiltered, undeniable. And I already had the spreadsheet. But the moment of confirmation, the moment it all snapped into crystal clear focus, didn't come from her emails, or the car stakeout, or even the calendar entries. It came from our taxes. Yeah, you heard me. I was reviewing our joint returns for the upcoming filing, something we always did together, when I noticed a new 1099 filed under her name from a company called ThriveSync, LLC. Never heard of it. So I asked her. Oh, she said. That's just a little side consulting gig I picked up through Travis. You know, from the gym. She didn't even blink. Right then, I knew. Travis wasn't just her boyfriend. He was her business partner. She had built a whole parallel identity, financial, emotional, geographic, all without breaking a sweat. And she thought she was smarter than me. Thought I wouldn't look twice at a 1099. Thought I was too simple to read a spreadsheet. She was wrong. I wasn't mad. I was focused. Because now, I didn't just have suspicion. I had proof. Time-stamped, organized, irrefutable. And I was going to use it. Not to win her back. Not to scream or cry or ask how she could do this to me. No, I had other plans. Smart plans. The kind that don't just hurt, they humiliate. And I couldn't wait to get started. The thing about betrayal is, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It changes the way you hear their voice, the way they walk across a room, even the way they chew. Everything turns suspicious, mechanical. Cynthia's laugh became a performance. Her hand on my shoulder felt like bad acting. The woman I married had become a well-rehearsed puppet, and I finally saw the strings. But I wasn't about to shout. I wasn't going to flip tables or throw her laptop out the window. No, I wanted her to explain it all slowly, soberly, while I stayed 2 steps ahead. I wanted to watch her build the lie, brick by brick, before I knocked the whole house down. It started on a Tuesday. I'd been patient, biding my time. But the tax document was the final push I needed. You don't register a business with your gym fling unless you're building something long-term, something you assume your husband's too dumb or too checked out to notice. Cynthia underestimated me, and now I had everything I needed. Dates, numbers, the name of the LLC, even their shared Google Drive folder. Yes, I found it. Password protected, but not too secure. People really do use their dog's name for everything. She came home from yoga that evening, still pretending to care about our meal planning board. She picked up a marker, wrote zucchini stir-fry under Wednesday like we were living a normal life. The audacity of that moment still blows my mind. She was plotting wellness dinners with her boyfriend and logging it next to my grocery list. I gave it a few minutes. She took her usual seat on the couch, feet up, wine glass in hand. How was the remodel in Kirkwood? She asked. Wrapped it early. I'll invoice them tomorrow, I said. That's great, she replied, not looking up from her phone. You're really killing it this year. I smiled. Thanks. Actually, speaking of finances, I thought we could sit down and do a quick budget check-in. You know, ahead of tax season. She froze for half a second. Not visibly, but I saw it. That microsecond of hesitation before she forced a nod. Sure. Let me grab my laptop. We sat at the dining table. I had my notebook. She had her MacBook. I didn't lead with the bombshell. I let her talk first, ramble, actually, about Roth IRAs and flexible spending and whether we should refinance the mortgage. It was impressive, honestly. She was trying to drown me in financial jargon, like a magician distracting you with a deck of cards while stealing your watch. Then I struck. "Hey," I said, flipping a page in my notebook. "I noticed a 1099 from a company called ThriveSync. Says you received consulting income. When did that start?" "Oh, right," she said, too casually. "That's just something I picked up through Travis. He looped me in on a few projects. HR systems audits. Not a big deal." I leaned forward. "Travis from the gym?" "Yeah," she nodded quickly. "He has a few clients who needed some guidance." "It's all virtual." "All virtual?" I asked. "Because there are a couple line items on the spreadsheet I saw. Hotel stays, ride shares. Looks like some of those audits happened in person." Dead silence. I kept going. "I mean, the one at that co-working space on Washington Avenue? And the concert at the pageant on the same night? Or the wine bar in Clayton, the one that shows up under team development dinner?" She looked at me now. Hard. Eyes narrowed. "You went through my files?" "Technically, they were on our shared computer. But don't worry, I didn't look at your browser history. Just the financial breakdowns. The tabs were so nicely labeled. It was educational." "You're being dramatic," she snapped. "This isn't what it looks like." I laughed. "Cynthia, it's an itemized spreadsheet. It's exactly what it looks like." Her voice rose. "You had no right to snoop." "I wasn't snooping. I was printing invoices. The fact that I found a full-blown expense report for your boyfriend was just a bonus." She stood up, defensive now. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Travis and I, look, we got close, okay? But it's not some big conspiracy. It's complicated." "It's not complicated," I said calmly. "You lied. Repeatedly. You built an entire alternate reality funded by our shared account and labeled it professional development. That's not complicated. That's just impressive accounting." She walked toward the kitchen, trying to distance herself from the conversation. That's when I got up, pulled the flash drive from my pocket, and set it on the counter. "That's everything I found. Copies of your spreadsheets, emails, calendar entries. I also grabbed the PDF of your ThriveSync contract, the one you e-signed with Travis." She stared at the flash drive like it was radioactive. "You really went through everything, huh?" "I did. Because I wanted to give you the courtesy of a full audit before we had this conversation." Then she tried a new tactic, guilt. "Jeff, I've been unhappy for a long time. I didn't know how to talk to you about it." I nodded. "Right. So instead of talking, you made spreadsheets. I guess you skipped the honest communication tab." "I didn't mean to hurt you." I gave a dry laugh. "That's the thing. You didn't even think about me. You thought about your exit plan. You thought about mileage reimbursements and splitting hotel bills. But you never once thought about what this would do to me." She opened her mouth to say something, I have no idea what, but I cut her off. "I'm not asking for an apology. I just want you to know I know. Fully. No gray area. No ambiguity. You cheated. You lied. You planned. And now, I get to respond. Not emotionally. Logically. With the same precision you used when you tallied up expenses." She sat back down, suddenly quiet. I stood there for a second, letting it all settle in. Then I leaned in and added one more thing. "Oh, and Cynthia? Don't bother deleting the spreadsheet. I already emailed a copy to myself. Labeled it marriage_autopsy_2024. Thought it was a fitting title. Then I left the room. I didn't slam a door. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just walked away, calm, clear-headed, and absolutely done. I heard her whisper my name once, maybe twice. I didn't stop. Because from that moment on, it wasn't about her anymore. It was about what I was going to do next. And trust me, it was going to be good. I didn't get mad. I got methodical. You see, when your wife spends 6 months hiding a full-blown affair inside a budget spreadsheet, you learn something important. The devil doesn't just live in the details. He itemizes them. And if she wanted to run her betrayal like a business, I was more than happy to issue a final invoice. The night I confronted Cynthia was calm. Chillingly calm. I didn't yell. Didn't pack a bag. Didn't ask why. Why's a useless word? Why gives them room to lie? I had no interest in watching her improvise a backstory. I was interested in outcomes. Results. So I planned mine. She slept in the guest room that night. Not by request, by instinct. I think even she knew the main bedroom wasn't hers anymore. I heard her pacing at 1 a.m., probably refreshing her Gmail or scrubbing that spreadsheet off every device she owned. Wouldn't help. I had everything I needed. The next morning, I got up at my usual time. Showered. Shaved. Coffee. Like nothing had changed. Because on the surface, it hadn't. Yet. Cynthia left quietly around 8:30. Said she had client calls. I nodded, sipping my coffee like a man who didn't already have tabs on her whole day. See, I had done more than copy her files. I'd started preparing mine. Documents, receipts, a full timeline, all color-coded, naturally. But this wasn't for a therapist or a divorce lawyer. Not yet. This was for a performance. Because I wasn't just going to end things. I was going to narrate the ending in public, in a way she couldn't rewrite. Step 1. A little something I call the shared circle cleanse. Mutual friends, neighbors, coworkers, anyone who knew both of us got a carefully worded message from me that Friday afternoon. Hey folks, just a heads up. Cynthia and I will be separating soon. I've discovered some personal matters I can't ignore. I won't go into details, but let's just say she and Travis Hines are more than gym buddies. I've got the spreadsheets to prove it. Hope you're well. I didn't send it as a group text. No. Each one was individually tailored. Different openings. Different emojis. You'd be amazed at how fast the social temperature changes when you give people a puzzle they can't resist solving. Step 2. Her job. Cynthia's company prided itself on workplace ethics and zero-tolerance boundaries. She'd helped write the manual. Guess who else worked in the same building complex? Travis. He ran a boutique consulting firm out of a co-working space 2 floors down. And guess who had a joint business registration in the state's open access public database? ThriveSync, LLC. Filed under Cynthia Garrett and Travis Hines. I didn't report her. I didn't have to. I just sent a polite inquiry to her company's HR department, anonymously, asking if ThriveSync violated any terms of employee moonlighting or if co-owning a side business with a building tenant was a conflict of interest. I attached a link to the business registry and signed it, concerned stakeholder. Step 3. The masterpiece. Our anniversary party. Yeah, the one she forgot I already paid for. Every year, we threw a little get-together in late April. Nothing big, 20 or 30 people, mostly friends, some extended family. Food truck in the driveway, music in the backyard. This year's deposit was already in. Catering, chairs, even a live jazz trio she insisted on booking. It was supposed to be our Big Ten celebration. She hadn't canceled it. Probably assumed I would. That I'd be too humiliated to show my face. So I didn't cancel. I upgraded. I sent out new invitations, digital and paper. Changed the name from Jeffrey and Cynthia's 10-year bash to Jeffrey's Fresh Start Party. 10 years, 1 wife, and a spreadsheet later. Yes, that was the actual title. I made sure everyone got the joke. The invitation even featured a faux Excel layout with cheeky cells. Now before you accuse me of pettiness, let me be clear, this wasn't revenge for pain. This was revenge for disrespect. For the insult of thinking she could run a covert operation under my roof with that level of arrogance. And still play house. The RSVPs rolled in faster than I expected. Apparently, people love a man with receipts. The day of the party, the weather was perfect. Blue sky, 72 degrees, not a cloud in sight. The jazz trio arrived early. I tipped them extra to play Cynthia's favorite song during cocktail hour, some Norah Jones track she used to call romantic. Ironic, really. People showed up in waves. Our friends, my clients, even a few of her coworkers. Turns out not everyone liked Travis. Several folks from the building knew exactly who he was and were more than happy to whisper details over deviled eggs. I made a toast around sunset. Nothing bitter. Nothing mean. Just the facts. Thank you all for being here. Some of you know the story. Some of you don't. Here's the short version. I spent 10 years married to someone who turned betrayal into a spreadsheet. Line by line, she built a secret life and assumed I'd never notice. But I did. And instead of fighting in court or screaming in public, I decided to host a party. A celebration of clarity. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then someone clapped. Then another. Before long, the whole crowd was raising their glasses. I didn't cry. I didn't fume. I smiled. And then, right on cue, Cynthia arrived. She hadn't RSVP'd, but I'd known she'd show. She walked in wearing a black blouse, oversized sunglasses, and an expression that tried very hard to be indifferent. She made it halfway across the lawn before realizing every head had turned toward her. The music stopped. The jazz trio didn't need a cue. They saw a moment and let the silence do the work. I met her near the drink table. You weren't invited, I said quietly. This is petty, Jeffrey, she hissed. No, I said. This is closure. You had your spreadsheet. I have mine. You had secrets. I have speakers. She looked around, realizing how many people had connected the dots. She wasn't anonymous anymore. She wasn't in control. Then I handed her a manila envelope. What is this? Your share of the quarterly expenses. Consider it paid in full. You can keep the jazz playlist. I turned and walked away, back into the crowd, back into my life. She didn't follow me. She just stood there, holding the envelope like a drowning woman gripping a blueprint. And that, right there, that was revenge. Not a punch, not a scream. A spreadsheet of truth and a party she could never unattend. Cynthia texted me 2 days after the party. We need to talk. Please. I let it sit unread for 6 hours. Then I responded. Thursday, 7 p.m. Our house. No games. And she showed. Right on time. Like a job interview she couldn't afford to be late for. I was already sitting at the kitchen table when she walked in, holding a manila folder like she thought this was a negotiation. Her heels tapped slowly on the hardwood, the rhythm of someone rehearsing their speech with every step. She hadn't been here since the party, since she stood in my backyard and watched her reputation dissolve like sugar in rain. She sat across from me and didn't say a word right away. Good. I was in no mood for theater. I'm not going to yell, I said calmly. I'm not going to throw anything. This isn't for closure. It's for clarity. She nodded slowly, like she didn't quite believe me. Go ahead, I said. Say what you came here to say. She looked exhausted. Not in the dramatic, tear-stained kind of way, just worn. Hollow behind the eyes. The high-gloss performance mask was gone. I messed up, she said, too flat to be emotional. I know you probably think everything I did was calculated, but it wasn't like that. I raised an eyebrow. The spreadsheet says otherwise. Her jaw tightened. I wasn't planning to cheat when I met Travis. I didn't wake up one day and decide to betray you. It just happened slowly. I felt invisible, Jeff. You were always working or fixing something or talking about your next renovation project. I felt like a roommate, like a backup character in your life. I let the silence hang, because the worst thing you can do to someone trying to make excuses is give them space to hear themselves. She filled it. He listened to me. He asked me questions. He remembered things I said. I don't know. It felt good to feel seen again. That's not an excuse. I'm just telling you what it was. I nodded once. So your solution to feeling unseen was to sneak around behind my back, forge a second income stream with a guy you met doing squats, and hide it in a shared budget document? I didn't mean for it to go that far. But it did. She looked down. I have to ask, I said, at what point did you look at that spreadsheet and think, this is fine? The color-coded breakdown, the shared business account, the concert tickets, at what point did you think, I'm still a decent person? Her face crumpled for half a second. But she caught herself. It wasn't guilt. It was exposure. Like being seen without makeup in harsh light. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. But I came here because I wanted to say it out loud. That I know what I did. I know it's over. Good, I said. Because I didn't bring you here for reconciliation. That part hit her. Her lips parted like she was about to argue. But I cut her off. This is the part where we both say everything that needs to be said. Because after tonight, we're not talking again. No checking in. No friendly updates. You'll get the divorce papers next week. And after that, we're ghosts to each other. She swallowed hard. You're really done. Cynthia, I hosted a party called Fresh Start. I think the message was clear. She looked around the room like it still belonged to her. But it didn't. Not anymore. I want to ask you something, I said, leaning forward. And I want the real answer. No HR speak. No half-truths. She nodded slowly. If I hadn't found the spreadsheet, if I hadn't confronted you, would you have ever told me? A beat of silence. No, she said quietly. I don't think I would have. I stared at her, letting the answer settle. That was the only honest thing she'd said all year. Thank you, I said. I just needed to hear it out loud. She stared at the table. Her voice cracked a little. I did love you, Jeff. I gave a dry chuckle. You loved the idea of me. The guy who fixed things, who handled bills, who stayed out of your way while you explored. You didn't love me. You managed me. That's not fair. What's not fair, I said calmly, is that I spent a decade building a life with someone who had an exit plan 3 tabs deep. What's not fair is that you sat across from me every night, smiling like nothing was wrong, while you were tracking expenses with the man you were sleeping with. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Travis dumped me, she blurted out. After the party. I know. You. No. His assistant called my office. Thought I was your business partner. Wanted to know if I'd be dissolving the LLC too. I told her to send the paperwork to your new address. She blinked. You really planned all of this? No, I said. You planned it. I just read the fine print. She looked completely undone now. Not tragic, just defeated. Like someone who finally realized the game was over, and the other player hadn't just won, they'd played better the whole time. I guess I deserved it, she said softly. No, I said. You earned it. She stood slowly, her fingers lingering on the back of the chair. I don't know how to end this, she said. You already did, I replied. She hesitated for a moment, maybe waiting for a hug, maybe just hoping I'd say something soft. But there was no softness left. Not for her. She walked out. No drama. No slam. Just the sound of heels on wood, getting fainter and fainter until they disappeared completely. I stayed at the table for a while, staring at the manila folders she never opened. Probably filled with reasons. Explanations. Maybe even some old pictures for sentiment. I didn't care. I tossed it in the recycling bin. That was our final conversation. And it was perfect. I didn't move out. She did. She packed her bags quietly the Sunday after our final conversation, like a tenant vacating a lease that was never really hers. No tears. No drama. She left behind the citrus shampoo, 2 mugs with our initials, and the framed wedding photo that used to hang in the hallway, the one we both pretended not to notice gathering dust. I watched her through the window as she loaded her SUV with surgical precision. Even her exit was strategic. When she closed the car door, she looked up once. I didn't wave. And that was that. The house was quiet in a way I hadn't heard in years. Not empty clean. No tension hiding in the corners. No half-lies echoing in the hallways. Just silence. Peace, even. It was almost unsettling. The Monday after she left, I stood in the kitchen and made coffee like usual. Same mug. Same routine. But the air was different. I wasn't performing anymore. I wasn't trying to guess if a sigh meant, I'm tired, or I'm cheating. There was no code to crack. No game to play. I was free. The divorce paperwork went through faster than expected. When someone gets caught red-handed and then publicly embarrassed at a catered jazz party, they tend not to fight the legal process too hard. I hired a sharp, quiet attorney named Maureen who spoke like every word cost money. She liked my evidence package. Called it pre-sorted gold. Cynthia didn't even request mediation. She signed, returned, and didn't contest a single line. Not the house, not the car, not the joint account split. She even released her claim on the business equity I'd built before the marriage. Guilt? Maybe. Or maybe she just wanted out before more people started reading between the lines. Either way, I wasn't going to look a gift betrayal in the mouth. I had the paperwork finalized and filed within 6 weeks. Official. Legal. Over. You'd think that would be the end of the story. But life's funny like that. Because the ending isn't the signature on the divorce decree. It's what happens after. The first real moment it hit me was about 2 weeks post-divorce. I was in Lowe's, picking up paint samples. Cynthia used to insist on grays and muted tones, cool, clean neutrals, she called them. I always liked bolder colors but never pushed it. This time, I grabbed a deep red and a warm amber, just because I could. The clerk rang them up and said, "Big project?" "New start," I said without thinking. He smiled. "Good for you, man." And I realized, yeah, it was. I didn't jump into dating. That wasn't the point. I wasn't trying to move on in the sitcom sense, where some new woman shows up at your front door with a casserole and a laugh track. I didn't want revenge flings or awkward Tinder coffee dates. What I wanted was to know myself again without someone else's permission. So I made a list. Not a resolution. Just a recalibration. Paint the kitchen the color I actually like. Replace the guest room bed with a punching bag. Take one solo road trip. No itinerary. Cancel every streaming service she subscribed to. Host poker night once a month. No couples. No Pinterest charcuterie. Just beer and cards. It was petty and perfect. The road trip ended up being the best part. I drove through Tennessee, ate ribs with my hands in Memphis, and slept in a crappy motel that had no soap but excellent biscuits. I didn't post any of it. I didn't document it. I just lived it. Along the way, I realized something nobody tells you after you've been cheated on. Eventually, the hurt stops being about them. It becomes about you. What you allowed. What you ignored. What you settled for because the alternative was scary or inconvenient. I could have left years ago. I could have asked harder questions. But I didn't. And that's on me. But I also handled the ending with grace, with clarity, and with just enough fire to make it sting. And that's something to be proud of. She did reach out once more, by the way. A short email. No subject line. I saw the pictures from your party. I deserved it. I'm sorry. I hope you're doing okay. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. I wasn't. Not anymore. I didn't respond because nothing she had to say mattered. Her words weren't a key to anything. There was no door left to unlock. That chapter wasn't just closed. It had been shredded and tossed in the bin marked "Learned." I saved the email anyway, not out of sentiment, just as a reminder. That's how you know you're really healed, when you can keep the evidence, not out of rage or longing, but because it no longer controls you. The house looks different now, brighter, warmer. The walls don't whisper anymore. They breathe. I have people over. I laugh without checking for her reaction. I sleep diagonally, because why not? And no, I don't miss her. I miss who I thought she was. I miss the version of Cynthia that I created in my head, the loyal, intelligent woman who'd build a life with me, not a ledger of betrayal. But the real Cynthia? She's just someone I used to split bills with. Sometimes people ask how I managed to stay so calm. Why I didn't go nuclear. Why I didn't torch her reputation or key her car or scream in the middle of Whole Foods. Simple. Because I knew the truth would do more damage than I ever could. She built her affair like a business. I ended it like one. Strategic exit. Clean cuts. No drama. And in the end, she got to live with the spreadsheet. I got to live. That's the real revenge. You win not by destroying them. You win by refusing to let them destroy you. So here's to the clean break. To the sharp knife. To the man who walked away with dignity while she scrambled to explain Cell C24. Weekend. STL. Shared Uber. Because love doesn't die with betrayal. It dies with the lie you keep living after you know better. And I know better now. You don't rebuild the old house. You knock it down and build something stronger, with better walls, clearer blueprints, and no shared tabs. And subscribe to the channel